Now, our next presentation comes from Amy Christensen-Janicki. She's from Records Management from Indiana Record Archives and Record Administration. So you all asked for some information on that, and she is going to give you some really good information. So please welcome Amy.
Hello, everyone. I shared my screen, so hopefully, are you all seeing my PowerPoint?
We are, but it's not in presentation mode.
Ooh, let me see what I can.
Is that good? You guys can't see that out there? Hold on. Can we see it now? Okay, we are good to go.
Great. Awesome. All right. So thanks for having me. You've probably heard from me, several of you recorders. I've probably called you by now or talked to you. Hopefully at one point I'll be able to get to meet you all in person. But today I'll be giving you, I'm going to try to stay to a brief 30 minutes and then leave room for 15 minutes of questions towards the end. So today, I just wanted to give you an overview of what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to give you just a rundown of what the Indiana Archives and Records Administration is and our different divisions. Then I'll talk about my position as the Records Management Liaison. And then I'll talk about records management in general, as well as talking about the different retention schedules and the state forms that you'll most likely be using. And then I'll finish the presentation with information about your County Commission of Public Records. Okay. So the Indiana Archives and Records Administration assists state and local governments in the cost-effective, efficient, and secure management of governmental records by providing services throughout the life cycle of records, including creation, use, records inventory and scheduling, storage, and disposition. IARA was formerly known as the Indiana Commission on Public Records. That was recently renamed in July of 2015. So just a few years ago, we had a different name. So if you knew us as the ICPR, we are now the IARA. And those are a list of the different divisions within IARA. I'll go into records management a little more in the next slides, but we develop records retention schedules, work with government offices and employees to apply those schedules to records. We do have two different sections, one for state and one for county local government. And then the State Records Center works primarily with state government agencies. They provide temporary storage and document circulation for inactive records. The Indiana State Archives permanently collects legally and historically valuable Indiana government records. They also provide public access to those records that are not confidential by law, and they maintain secure storage of microfilm negatives. The Electronic Records Program advises government agencies on the management of electronic record formats and systems. They work to develop policies and procedures for e-records, and they transfer and accession archival electronic records to the Indiana State Archives collections. The Conservation Laboratory restores and repairs legally and historically valuable records. They serve as a resource for disaster preparedness and emergency planning. And Lab also advises different government agencies on proper records preservation methods. The State Imaging and Microfilm Services Lab performs preservation microfilming of critical records with experience in handling delicate and/or damaged records. They can also convert critical microfilm and paper-based records to digital access formats. And they also preserve digital records by writing files to microfilm as a secure backup file to different content management systems. The Forms Management Division, they assign master numbers to state form numbers for all official state government agency forms, both paper and electronic. They maintain a master file folder and database record for each state form, and they design forms for agencies and approve the design of agency-created forms. And I'll be talking about a couple of those state forms later on. And then finally, the OCPR, which stands for the Oversight Committee on Public Records. They approve schedules for government agencies. They vote on policies and administrative rules for IARA, and they are created by an Indiana state code. And the OCPR is the state level counterpart to your County Commission of Public Records. And I'll discuss the county commissions later on. So IARA has two records management sections, like I mentioned. We have the state and the county local. Records management sections, we provide assistance and education for Indiana government offices in managing, retaining, preserving, and disposing of public records. We develop and update records retention schedules that balance the storage needs of the government office with state and federal retention requirements, as well as the need for preservation of documents with permanent historical value. We also offer an online training course. We create publications and different policies that can help you with your records management. I highly recommend our County Local Records Custodian Handbook, which you can see pictured there. I've probably emailed that handbook to several of you if you've contacted me, because I find it really, really helpful. And then I mentioned the policy 20-01 and 20-02. Those are two electronic records policies that are very helpful as well. And of course, we work with records and forms coordinators and answer any records management questions that come up. So what do I do as the records management liaison? So I was hired back in June of 2020, right at the beginning, kind of the beginning of the pandemic. When I was hired, my job was supposed to be doing a lot of state travel to help county local government agencies, and specifically county clerks and other, government agencies that needed in-person help. But of course, with COVID and the pandemic going on, state travel was basically at a freeze, and I had to think of other ways to get in touch with you all. So one thing we did was create a weekly email blast that I send out on Mondays about different records management topics. So if you are not on that subscription list, I will have my email at the end of this presentation, and you just shoot me a quick email and say you'd like to be subscribed. It goes out on Mondays. I talk about a variety of different things. I'll let you know when retention schedules have been updated, or talk about different topics that have been mentioned a lot, that sort of thing. So when I was hired, I was actually new to records management. I have a background in archives, which is similar, but not exactly the same. So if you're new to records management, welcome to the club. We will learn together. both of my master's and undergraduate degrees are in history, and I do have an archival studies certificate. So I had worked in archives in the past, but it's been very interesting learning about records management and how the two forms differ. I did replace Bev Steers, if any of you are familiar with Bev. She retired in February of 2020. So I took on a lot of her job responsibilities, and I think my job's not the exact same as hers, but with a few tweaks. So anyway, hopefully soon I'll be able to do some state traveling and meet in person with you all. But if you have any questions about records management in the meantime, or about retention schedules, I'm the person you can turn to about those. Okay. So I'll let you read those quotes on your own from the Association of Records Managers and Administrators and from IU Libraries. They kind of give a strong definition of what records management is. But what I want to let you know is that there are basically 3 reasons why every office in Indiana government needs an effective records management program. The first is to perform its legal mandates and responsibilities. The second is to minimize the cost of record storage. And the third is to assure public access to the documentary evidence of government. What I've learned over the past several months being new to records management is that it tends to be left to the next generation. I have several examples I can mention, but it's really more effective for your office and for your staff to be on top of your records management, not only for the legal implications and for the cost of storage and public access, but just for general job maintenance and for your own anyway. So it's really important, not only legally, but for your own well-being. And then I did want to mention that you do also have 3 partners in your county local records management. You have us at the Indiana Archives and Records Administration, and then you have your County Commission of Public Records, and then of course you have yourself as records custodian. So if you ever need to reach out to us or County Commission, please do so. So at the heart of records management is the record. Anything created or received during the transaction of official government agency is considered a government record. I did want to put in there that not all public records are government records. It does not mean that they're all accessible to the public. Some government records can be public, confidential, or partially confidential. Those are some different examples of the format and media that government records can be on. So a government record is based on the type of information, not the media or format. So the media is the type of physical container. So like if a record is on paper or microfilm or CD, that's the media. And then a format is how the information is arranged, like on a program like Microsoft Word, or a file type such as PDF, TIFF, etc. So it doesn't matter what media or format a government record is based on, it's the type of information. So, records retention is a practice by which organizations maintain records for a set length of time and then employ a system of actions to either redirect, store, or dispose of them. There are different record types that must be maintained for different time periods, depending on state and federal laws that affect that area of government. And then, so why is records retention important? Like I said before, good records retention prevents audit findings and possibly prevent damages in a lawsuit. So it's important that records should be available and easily accessible. So retention schedules tell us how long the law says we need to keep the various categories of records and documents we create or receive in Indiana government, and what to do with them after that. The name we use for those categories is record series. Record series are records that share the same topic, legal requirements, and retention instructions that are grouped together under a single record series. So each record series has a record series number, it has a record series title and description, and a retention and disposition instructions. So the record series number, it's a unique identification number assigned when the series is first created. The title and description is a formal name for the category of records and a brief description of the subject or program that the records have in common, specific forms and reports that may or may be included, and any legal codes that affect confidentiality or retention periods. And the retention and disposition instructions are the where, in what format, and how long the records are to be maintained, and what happens at the end of that period, whether it's destruction of records that are no longer useful or transfer to the Indiana State Archives for records of historical value. So retention schedules are lists of record series, basically. Each retention schedule contains all of the record series that apply either to a specific government entity or to a broad category of government, of a government. So there are 5 types of retention schedules for Indiana government records. The first 4 are created and updated by IARA. So the state, the agency specific, the county local, and the office specific are the 4 that IARA create and update. That 5th one, the judicial retention schedules, are managed by the Indiana Judiciary. And these retention schedules are always being updated and made better for your office and our agency. And I'll talk about the county, local, and office specific retention schedules in more detail here. So for you all as county recorders, the first retention schedule you're going to look at is the county recorder office specific retention schedule. So your office specific will list all the record series that belong to a general function of county or local government rather than any specific county, city, or other political subdivision. So the county recorder's retention schedule applies to all county recorders in Indiana. And so after you look at the county recorder schedule, if you can't find your record there, then you would turn to the county local general retention schedule. So this general retention schedule contains broad and common record series that can apply to all units of county or local government. Those record series should be only used, however, if there isn't an applicable record series on your office specific. So you only use the general if you can't find the record on your county recorder office specific retention schedule. And then I just wanted to briefly mention that there are other office specific schedules out there that some records might be covered under. I tend to use the public safety agencies, the PSA, and the land, the zoning, planning, development, enforcement schedules a lot for county local agencies. And then there are these other local schedules as well. You might find yourself having to use the cities and towns. I can tell you that the special districts schedule is actually going to be absorbed into the general retention schedule in the coming months. And I know that several of these are being updated, like the public libraries and the schools, educational institutions. So the state forms that you will most likely be using, let's see. So you've looked at your retention schedules and you found or haven't found the record series you're looking for. Now what? So if you have found your record series and you are looking to, your retention period says to destroy, you will use the SF State Form 44905 Notice of Destruction, or what we call the NOD. If you haven't found your record on either the recorder or the general, and you've emailed or called me, and I can't find it either, we will fill out what is known as the State Form, or SF 30505, the PR1. And that is a link below there to both of those forms. And I just want to say with these two state forms, make sure that you are using the most updated form. You can find the updated forms on our IARA website and at that link. I know recently, last year, both of these forms were updated and the instructions on them were updated as well. So there are new instructions and all of that. So as far as the notice of destruction goes, it is a form that is to be used only for documenting the destruction of records as scheduled on an approved county local records retention schedule. So I've got an example at the bottom of the slide, Gen 1010, Basic Accounting Records and Revenue. So let's say that you have revenue receipts from 2000 to 2010. You've looked at the recorder schedule, you can't find it there. You then turn to the county local general retention schedule. You'll find this record series, Gen 10-10, that fits your revenue receipts. And then you see that the retention period says, destroy, delete after 6 years and after receipt of State Board of Accounts audit report and satisfaction of unsettled charges. So since your revenue receipts are from 2000 to 2010, you are able to destroy those. So that is when you would fill out this form, the notice of destruction. You'd fill out the contact information, you'd include the record series, the Gen 1010 information, and then you would submit the form to IARA. And if you read the instructions on the form, it basically tells you to submit the form, wait 30 days. If you don't hear from us, that is the approval to destroy. So you could then destroy the records on the 31st day. And then you would finish the form. There's a small section at the bottom called destruction information that needs to be filled out. And so after you finish that, you send the form to your secretary of your county commission, and you keep one for your office records. If you don't know who your county commission secretary is, ask me. I have kept if you aren't the secretary yourself or the clerk isn't, I should be able to find that information out for you because I keep a running list of who the secretaries are each year. So anyway, that's just a little bit about the notice of destruction form. I know it's been updated recently and it seems to be a little confusing. So if you have more questions, just let me know. So the PR1 or the SF 30505, you won't, I say this, you won't use this form as often as you will the notice of destruction because most records do have a record series, but every once in a while you'll come across a record that isn't covered on a retention schedule, and we'll have to fill out this PR1 form. So like I said, this form is for permission to destroy non-scheduled records or to transfer the only copy of public records. So you can transfer the only copy of a public record to the state archives or to the to your county or local historical society. But you do need to ask the state archives first. They get dibs, and then you can offer it to the historical society. So if the historical society or the state archives would like the records, you'll have to fill out this PR1 form as well. All right, so the last section of my presentation is about the County Commission of Public Records and their meetings. The County Commission of Public Records, they receive and process records disposition notices and requests. So those notice of destruction and those PR1 forms we talked about from governmental offices in your county by meeting at least once per calendar year. IARA strongly encourages the commission to meet more often than that so that the localities and offices you serve can dispose of their records in a timely and efficient manner. The county commission is required by Indiana code, and that's where they need to meet at least once a year as well. The commission must have a quorum to hold a meeting, which I believe is 4 members. They are open to the public, and the secretary of the commission is either the county clerk or the recorder. So some of you out there might be secretaries. There is also a chairperson for the meetings, and it's usually one of the elected from one of the commission members. I know that a lot of counties, their chairperson is usually their circuit court judge, but it can be any member, and it can also be the secretary. If you want to do double duty, you are more than welcome to do that. And like I said, this commission is to help keep each county's records managed efficiently. Here is part of that Indiana code, and it shows the different members of the commission. If you'll notice that it says, like under number 1, it'll say the judge of the circuit court or the judge's designee. You can, these members can send proxies to the meetings. So that is something that can happen. If they can't attend, they can send someone from their office. And during COVID, the commissions are more than welcome to do virtual meetings. If you all can't meet in person or whatnot, you can definitely do virtual meetings. It's encouraged. And then, like the code says, you'll need to send the secretary and chairperson's name and contact information to IARA no later than 30 days after the date of determination. I'll tell you that I pretty much already have everyone's secretary and chairperson. I've probably contacted a few of you just to make sure I had that accurately. And then I did just want to mention again the County Local Records Custodian Handbook. That's a link there to the handbook. It is a wonderful guide to county local records management. Like I said, I use it practically every day. It does replace 2 previous publications. So if you have those older publications, feel free to toss those you no longer need it as long as you have the handbook. And then there is an online tutorial. It's the Records Management for Indiana County and Local Government. It's a click through, and it's kind of a good records management refresher. So I found that to be also helpful. All right, well, that's the end of my presentation. I hope you've learned a little bit more about records management and about the forms that the retention schedules and the forms that you're going to be using a lot. If you would like to be subscribed to that email list I mentioned every week on Mondays, feel free to email me at one of these email addresses, and I will definitely get you on that list. And if there are any questions, I can hopefully answer them. Should I stop sharing my screen? Let's see.
Right there. Can you hear me now, Amy?
Yes.
Yay. Here we go. So I've had this question asked of me a few times, and I don't know how to respond to people. What if neither the clerk or the recorder want to be secretary? Whose job is it fall on at that point?
It must, according to Indiana code, either be the clerk or recorder by mutual agreement. If neither of you can, if a clerk and recorder cannot decide on who will be the secretary, the commission members must vote on it, and they will decide who will be the secretary.
Right. Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay. I've got two questions. The first one is, what's an example of a type of record that we wouldn't keep at the county level that we would send to the state archives?
So what's an example of a record that you wouldn't keep in the county offices you would send to the state archives? It would most likely be one of your older historical records. That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I can answer it off the top of my head. I'll have to think on that one and maybe get back to you.
The other question was on the financial end. There's probably a place that you've said to go to find this out, but years ago when we were on Manatron, we kept about 5 reports at the end of the day. So we just boxed them up, and then State Board of Accounts, when they did auditing, they would come in and ask for what they wanted. And now we've changed to CSI. We just do 2 reports, the fee and cash book and the posting report. So I guess my question is, how many years do we have to keep these records? And then are we allowed to destroy them without going before the commission? Certain records that we didn't have to keep.
Are these?
I know it's kind of a confusing question. There's some we didn't have to keep, we just kept because we just ran them, we kept them, you feel funny throwing them away because that's what they told us, that's what they made available to us to run.
Right.
But if we didn't really need them or State Board of Accounts didn't need them for future reference, are we allowed to just toss those or shred them ourselves, or do we have to get permission from the commission?
Are the 2 reports you mentioned are ran off? Are they kept on a software, or can you?
No, it's just paper.
Just on the paper. Those are the only copies
Can't
of those
reproduce
reports.
them. So you couldn't go back and print them at a later point in time?
That out. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
If they're the
It's
only,
kind of 2 questions because we've got old reports that we ran that were just available. We didn't really have to run. And then now present day, how long the State Board of Accounts want us to keep those? Is it 10 years?
it's probably the 10 years on the general retention schedule. I'm want to double check with my coworker who's been here a lot longer than I have, but most likely it's the 10 years. But if it's a report that you have the record, you know, in paper format or electronic, you can decide which one is what we call your copy of record, which is that's your main record. And then the other format or media can be your duplicate. And then with duplicates, you can just trash those. We don't care about the duplicates. We only care about the copy of record.
I see.
So that's what I was trying to figure out, if those reports that you ran, if the paper was the only copy you had. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I know I was kind of confusing, but I don't,
I gotcha.
yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, of course, you have to be clear across the room. Sorry, you were clear across the room.
Can you go through the steps for the request? Our office is the secretary, so we have two sides of that. We may have a request for our office, and then we also have to deal with requests coming in from like the sheriff's office.
What sort of requests are you talking about? Like records requests? Like they're looking.
The 30505 form.
Oh, okay. So the steps for that one.
When you get the Historical Society involved and just go through those steps once we receive a request.
Yeah, okay. So bear with me because this one I deal with the notice of destruction a lot more often. So if you're asking me to explain the form for if like a historical society wants to take your records.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So I'm looking at the form right now. So you fill out all information on the first page of the form. And then you would, okay. So the form, it says to contact. So before you contact the local historical society, you'll need to ask the state archives if they want it. Like I said, they kind of have dibs on the records. So if most likely the state archives will probably say no, that they don't want it or they don't have room. So that's when you could ask the historical society. So you'll be in contact with them and confirm that they're interested. And then you'd fill out the form. And then it says to file one copy with your county commission, and then you retain one copy for your own records. And then so you would actually have to wait until your county commission meets. So it says, upon receipt of an approved copy from your county commission. So that's why it's important that your county commission meets potentially more than once a year, because you could potentially be waiting a while. They approve these PR1 forms. So you get approval on the form, and then it says to follow the instructions on the second page of the form, and then retain a copy for your records. So just making sure I told you everything right. And then so once you've finished filling out the form, you so once you have approval from the county commission, you can then transfer it to the local historical society. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a confusing, so we can go over it again. It's definitely a lot of instructions there, so yeah.
All right, we got some more. Hold on. Okay. So Amy, first of all, we got to say hi. It's Joyce Oles.
Oh, hi, Joyce.
And just to tell the room that Amy and her team are spectacular. And you had mentioned having an example, and I'm sure in your head, Dearborn County was an example because our hospital had privatized last year. And part of the transaction was that we were to take over their records, the non-medical records. So we get in there and it's never been done. So it's been enormous and they've been incredible and they're holding our hands and we're getting through all it. And I am new to be the secretary from last year. I just started last year to be the secretary of our Public Records Commission, and then this happened. So, so yeah, but I do have a question. I know how, your people, people are sending in their 44905s and they don't get a response within 30 days. Do you recommend that they do it certified, a certified mailing, so they have a record that, yes, I did. See, I have documentation, I sent it in, and then that way they can prove, okay, because the worry is, did you get it? Do you know what I mean? Because there's no response back. So what's the
Right.
best way?
So with COVID, the records management team, most of us are still working virtually. So first I would suggest emailing, scanning the 44905 and emailing it. And if you want to send certified mail, you can. What saves you with the form is that you go by the date on the form, the 30 days after the date on the form. So it's a good call. If you're concerned about it, reach out to me and I'll make sure that we have received the 44905. If you want to certify it, you can. If you just want to send it and you trust that we receive it. But yeah, I can make sure that we receive the form. I monitor that email address that you would email it to. And my coworker Imelda is the one who handles the forms, actually. She's the one who keeps track of it. And she's the one who would reach out to you if in that 30-day period, if anything was wrong with the form, she would be the one who reached out to you. So, so yeah, just if you have any concerns with, before I destroy these records, let me make sure that they, got the form, you can definitely reach out to us.
Thank you. It's just been a common question from everybody in the county. So I just wanted to have a flat answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. I think that's all the questions that we have. Amy, we really thank you for coming and presenting on this today, and have a good afternoon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.